Most runners think they just need water on long runs. But what if I told you hydrating with just plain water alone won't save you from cramps, fatigue, or even collapsing mid race? In this video, I'm going to break down the truth about electrolytes for runners and why getting them right could be the key for your next PR or injury free season. I'm Dr. Peralta. I'm a physical therapist and run coach. And for almost 10 years, I've helped hundreds of runners get faster, avoid injuries, and fully understand how to fuel their bodies the right way, how to hydrate the right way. And electrolytes are one of the most overlooked tools in a runner's toolbox. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what electrolytes are, how to replenish them, how much you actually need, and when to take them before, during, and after your runs or races. So let's break this down into 5 key truths runners need to know about electrolytes. Plus, I'll show you how to test your sweat rate and share real strategies you can apply starting this week. Also, if you want a deeper training on fueling and recovery and just how to run pain-free, I've got a free training linked in the description. Don't miss that. So electrolytes, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, they aren't just about avoiding cramps. They regulate fluid balance, help with muscle contractions, and keep your nervous system firing. Just a 2% loss in body weight from dehydration can impair your performance. And studies show up to 70% of runners have had race issues with dehydration, some even ending up in medical tents. So let's get this part right. And I myself experienced dehydration, muscle cramps, fatigue, starting to feel like I'm gonna pass out just because, I was drinking plain water, wasn't drinking enough electrolytes. So what are electrolytes? Electrolytes are electrically charged minerals that help your body hold on to fluid, move nutrients in and waste out, support muscle contractions and nerve signaling. And out of all the electrolytes, sodium is the MVP here. Sodium is found in salt. It's the main mineral lost in sweat and the key regulator of fluid balance. Potassium, magnesium, and calcium also play vital roles here, especially for heart rhythm, blood pressure, and preventing cramping. In terms of really, muscle cramps. Without these, your body literally can't function at its best while running. And again, you'll know when you're not having enough. When my story of just going on a long run training for a marathon, it's hot out there. Even though drinking plain water, was still feeling kind of woozy, lightheaded, just because I wasn't getting enough electrolytes. So let's talk about what happens when you're low on electrolytes. When you sweat without replacing electrolytes, right? When we drink plain water alone, you risk muscle cramps, fatigue, dizziness, nausea, or even bloating, right? You're just bloating yourself. It's too much. Even if you're over drinking water, but not enough electrolytes, you can get like bloated off just plain water. So and you even get impaired decision making. Yes, your brain needs salt too, right? You start actually making poor decisions because you're not properly hydrated with electrolytes. In more serious cases, it can lead to hyponatremia, dangerously low sodium levels that can cause vomiting, coma, and even death. That's when you overly dilute your body's internal sodium salt stores by drinking too much excessive plain water or overly sweating without replenishing your electrolytes. Every athlete needs to take this seriously, especially those training in the heat or going for really long runs, so runs over 2 hours, especially in hot conditions. So how to replenish electrolytes? So typically you got 2 options. You got a couple of options actually. One is just using plain salt. You just add salt. Big fan of getting sea salt, adding salt to water or lemonade or juice or something to make it more tasty to drink. You could salt water to coconut water. So coconut water also has potassium. So now you got sodium and potassium. Easy combo, 1-2 combo there. You don't even need to buy supplements. But if you're going to buy supplements, you have to just see, are you a salty sweater? Because if you're a salty sweater, it means your sweat has lots of salt in it. You may need a supplement with more salt in it. Something like LMNT. It tends to be high sodium. It has about 1,000 milligrams of sodium per pack. Or something like Precision Hydration. pH brand also has customized. You could buy of their powders, etc., that you could do their, high. So you could actually, I believe, you could tailor it to your actual salt needs, your sodium needs, or your electrolyte needs. Excuse me. Other things you get, tablets, chews. Oftentimes, gel packets also have sodium in them. So if you're getting like a carb gel packet, you typically look and also have sodium, maybe even have potassium in there. So again, there's different options out there to choose from. You could look at the labels and see what you need. And then again, real foods, salted nuts, pickle juice, broth, salted pretzels. I mean, there's so many different options in there on how you could replenish your electrolytes without having to get supplements. But again, supplements are convenient. And, it does make it super easy to see, okay, how much you need instead of kind of guessing. But again, you could also measure this out like a teaspoon or a quarter teaspoon. So, for example, a quarter teaspoon of salt contains about 575 milligrams of sodium, right? So you get a quarter teaspoon of salt, and then you could add that to some coconut water or, pineapple flavored coconut water to make it easier to drink. Okay. So the balance is key, though, and obviously you want the potassium as well. Some experts recommend like a 3-to-2 ratio of sodium to potassium, or element, I believe, is like 5-to-1 ratio. But now we're going a little bit into the weeds. But essentially, you could use real foods like potatoes, avocado, or jerky, or even cheese during like an ultra marathon type event. And then you could also just naturally meet your potassium just through like whole food as well. Like I believe, like even a cup of orange juice. Yeah, like a cup of orange juice has about 496 milligrams of potassium for just 1 cup of orange juice. So you could easily just meet your potassium needs through like commonly, foods like that cup of orange juice. So how much do you actually need? So it varies from runner to runner, and sweat most runners sweat differently per hour, right? So some runners may sweat about 400 milliliters of sweat per hour, but others may sweat up to 2.4 liters per hour. And sodium loss can range from 115 to over 2,000 milligrams per liter of sweat. So how do you determine your sweat rate? I recommend just going for a 1 hour run, but before you go for the run, you want to weigh yourself before the run without clothes. Then obviously if you pee, then weigh yourself or whatever. Track your fluid intake. So let's say during that 1 hour run, maybe you drank, let's say a cup, 8 ounces of fluid or 16 ounces of fluid, whatever you drank, you're going to track that. And you're going to plug into this formula. So pre-weight minus post-weight. So you're going to weigh yourself before and after the run. And whatever fluid you took in during the run. So let's say you took a cup or 2 cups, right? And you divide it by the amount of time. So if you are just out there for an hour, then you get your fluid loss per hour, your sweat rate per hour, right? Pre-weight minus post-weight plus fluid intake. This gives you a rough estimate of how much fluid and sodium you're losing per hour. But I recently learned about wearable technologies. There's actually devices you can wear that will measure your sweat composition, your sweat rate. There's something called, there's many things out there currently, but one I looked up was the hDrop. And it's a game changer. Apparently, this device analyzes biomarkers in sweat in real time, tracks your sweat rate, your loss, sodium, potassium concentrations, and your skin temperature. And while you're running, gives you some data so you're not actually guessing, gives you more actionable data that you could actually use to customize your hydration needs to your body and your environment. And if you want to take the guesswork out of your fueling strategy, technology like this can be a massive step forward. But again, if you don't have access to technology, you can just simply weigh yourself before and after and see how much fluid you're losing. Okay. So, for example, if you lost 16 ounces, right, 16 ounces of like sweat loss is about 1 pound. So you lost about 1 pound, for example. Anyhow, so the rule of thumb during long efforts, you want to aim for about 700 to 900 milligrams of sodium per liter of fluid, right? So if you're drinking water or sports drink, just make sure your sports drink already has sodium in it. Usually they do, but if it doesn't, you may have to add additional sodium or salt to it. Hotter temps or heavy sweaters may need it even up to even higher, maybe even go up to like 1,200 milligrams per hour, right? It really depends. If if you are doing like an ultra marathon, you're on there for like 4 or 5 hours or more, you're obviously going to need more per hour to replenish. So when to take your electrolytes, when you do it. Before the run, maybe like an hour, 30 minutes before, you may do like a quarter teaspoon or a half teaspoon or even a whole teaspoon, depending if you're a salty sweater or not. That may give you anywhere, let's say we're going from half to 1 teaspoon. That's about 1150 to 2300 milligrams of sodium. Right. During the run, you may aim for anywhere from like 300 to 600 milligrams of sodium, plus 16 to 24 ounces of fluid every hour. And you could also get your sodium through the gel drinks, sports drinks themselves, chewable tabs, electrolyte mixes, or even whole food-based options. And usually it's for runs that's over 2 hours, but it could be under that if you're a heavy sweater or very hot condition, hot environment. And after run, you want to rehydrate. You can actually rehydrate with milk, right? Chocolate milk or cow's milk or plant-based milks can be good recovery drinks. With cow milk, obviously it has more protein intake, but you can also do like a plant-based milk like soy milk, or do oat milk, and you can add like protein powder if you want to get some protein in there. But usually you could have like a meal after your run, protein, carbs, and electrolytes. Add a little bit of salt to get you salt the food or salt the water. You'll get your electrolyte milk needs met as well, and that could be like a quarter teaspoon or a half teaspoon. Again, depending if you're a heavy sweater or not, or salty sweater. Excuse me. Uh, but in general, myself, I like to do like a quarter teaspoon of salt. Add that to like my oatmeal before the run, and then like a quarter teaspoon of salt during. Right. And everyone's gonna have different palates, what they can tolerate. Some people just hate the taste of a salty water, so they need to do a flavored drink. Right. Again, there's many brands out there that have flavored options as well. It could be pretty gross just to drink like plain salty water. So I like to do like a salty lemonade, strawberry lemonade. But again, there's so many, or even like a salty chocolate milk. So after the run. But it really depends what your stomach agrees with. And don't test it out. Don't wait to do this for race day, right? Obviously, test it out on your long runs. So like if you train for a marathon, just don't wait for the marathon day to test out your electrolyte hydration strategy. Test it out before the race. Cool. All right. So, story. I had a client who I was working with who was training hard but kept hitting the wall. And the last, let's say if it was like a marathon, right? So around like mile 20 or even around mile 20 or so, she kept hitting a wall, right? She was starting to slow down. And we did a basic sweat test and estimated she was losing about 1,500 milligrams of sodium per hour, just because estimating based off of the amount of fluid she lost pre and post weight. And when she started replenishing with high sodium electrolytes, her endurance improved almost overnight. And she ran, a PR about 2 months later. So sometimes the fix isn't more about training, it's about smarter fueling. And if you want to see more about my full system for helping runners run pain-free and to get things dialed in, check out my free training, a link in the description of how I help runners run pain-free. And from there, if you're really interested about working together, you could also book a call there we can talk about one-to-one coaching.